Mario?
Hello.
I don't see you. I only see me. Okay, now I see you. I don't see whoever's black screen.
That's Saul.
It's black. Happy birthday,
Oh,
Chaim.
thank you very much, Sydney.
Oh, happy birthday.
This was a real celebration.
Bless
There we
you.
go. Hello,
Thank you.
Bernie.
Good evening. How are you?
Good. Good. Mario, I like that old TV screen.
You do?
I love it.
Thank you.
Where'd you find that one?
No, it's in the Zoom. They have filters. They have many filters, but I think this
Uh-huh.
one is one
I
of the
like
nice.
it. But
Yeah.
you should be in black and white.
I know. Maybe I can do it. I don't know. Let's see.
Teach us how to do that, Mario. Where do you
Huh?
see those filters? Where do you see that?
You go where it says video at the bottom. I don't know. You're using a computer or
A computer, yeah.
at the bottom it says video, stop video, and there's an arrow going up, and you see filters.
Good evening,
Video
everybody.
settings.
Video settings.
Good evening, Ernie.
We're on volume 6, page 79. The subject of kashrus in the home is often focused on actual food items and the dishes used for them, which is the subject of many of the shiur in this volume. However, there are, of course, many individual ingredients which have been the subject of significant halachic debate, as well as some non-food items that raise kashrus concerns. In this year, we will focus on the halachic discussions concerning two non-food categories, medicine and toothpaste, as well as the considerations concerning three specific ingredients, honey, shellac, and gelatin. Many people wonder about whether medicine must be kosher. Although one does not ingest it as food, or even for nutrients, perhaps the fact that one swallows it should give it the same status as a halachic food, in which case it would be permitted to take only medicine with kashrut certification. What is the halacha? Does it matter what type of medicine it is and whether it is chewable, liquid, or a pill?
Ernie, excuse me, what page are you on?
79,
17.
volume 6.
6. Okay, that's my problem.
You have volume 6. I brought it to you.
You did? Okay, I'll look.
It's a thick one.
It's the very thick one.
Okay, continue.
Okay. The Gemara in Pesachim states that one whose life is in danger, of course, is permitted to take medicine even if it's not in kosher, except if the medicine is associated with idolatry, in which case one must forfeit his life rather than use it. It says Masechta Pesachim, Amrav Akiva, Amrav Yochanan, Bakol Misrapin, you can get healed with everything, Chutz me'atzei hashera, except for the wood of an hashera tree, which was an idolatry that was worshipped in Eretz Canaan. Hey Chidami, what kind of illness are we talking about? Are we talking about sakana nefashos? So I feel nami. So everything falls away because of pikuach nefesh. Either like a sakana, if there's no sakana, I feel kol yisrael shebetur nami lo. Then you can't use any isurim. So the Gemara gives us a yesod here. La'olam deka sakana, v'afilu hachi atzeh asher lo. So even if you're supposed to allow yourself to die, rather than use Atzei Hashera, even for Sakana Nefashos. No, that's not a big issue today. We don't really have Atzei Hashera. So consumption in an unusual manner and unpleasant tasting medicine. So if one's life is not in danger, we're talking about a chola she'ein bo sakana, but one is still seriously ill, one is classified as a chola she'ein bo sakana, who on Shabbat is permitted to take medicine or ask a Gentile to violate a malacha in order to assist his care for him. In our situation, the Gemara in Psachim indicates that it is permitted to take non-kosher medicine if one does not ingest it in a normal manner of eating food, since it does not provide benefit in this way. Says the Gemara in Psachim, Chafei Amid Beis, Mar Ravashi, Ashchel Ravina Deshayif Lo Labarte Begor Ki De Orla. Mar Ravashi found Ravina sort of anointing his daughter with products of Orla. Orla is the fruits of a tree within the first 3 years. Not only is it Asr Bachila, but it's Asr Bana. So Amrle Emadam Rabbanim B'Shas Sakana. So I understand the Chachamim allowed you to use something that normally is prohibited if it's a sakana, but Shalom is also sakana mi'amr. But they didn't allow it if it's not a sakana, and I guess Mar Ravashi assumed that the Ravina's daughter was not in sakana. Amr lei. She had a fever. And if you had a high fever, it's considered like a sakana. So that's one pshat, that it was a sakanas nefashos. Ikedi amri amr lei, midi derech hanoah ka'avidna. Midi derech hanoah ka'avidna. It means normally fruit of an orla is eaten, but if you massage the oil of an orla on your skin, that's not derech hanoah. That's not the normal derech hanoah. So even if it's a chola she'ein bo sakana, it comes out from this Gemara that you can use something as long as you're using it shelo kederech hanoah. The Ran explains that although deriving benefit from a non-kosher item or something which is where there's isra hanoah, but if you do it in an unusual manner, it's still asur d'rabbanan. However, Chazal were lenient in cases of illness. Says the Chidush Aran there by Psachim. Afagav M'Rabanan Mia Aser. It remains a rabbinic prohibition, but b'mokam cholile goes Rabbanan b'Yisrei Hana shel divrei. This issue of using something shelo kederech hanoah is normally aser midrabbanan, but the Chachamim are not goizer in the case of b'choyle she'ein bo sakana. In any kind of choilik, not even sakana. So if it's rabbinically aser, midrabanan only, you'd be allowed to use it. And the Shulchan Aruch paskins that way in Yordei Kuf Nun Hey. Bishar Yisurim Misrabim b'mokam sakana. You can use all Yisurim if it's a sakana. And afilu derech hanoah, even if you use the item in a normal way. For example, it's normally eaten or drank, so you can use it if it's sakana nefashos. However, shelo b'mokam sakana, so kederech hanoah aser. So you cannot use a prohibited item in the normal way that it's used for benefit if it's not a sakana. However, shelo kederech hanoah mutter. But if you're going to anoint it with oil, or let's say it's not. It's not, we'll see. Let's say it's not the normal derech, how you used it, then it's permitted, except for admixtures of vine and wheat, or these mixtures remain forbidden, even shelo kederech hanoah, only b'makom sakon. So Rav Shlomo Kluger permitted a chola she'ein bo sakana to drink non-kosher fish oil, since that is not considered to be a normal manner of consumption. This is in the Shut HaElef L'Chas Shlomo. Shlomo Kluger wrote the Chochma Shlomo. The Shlomo Kluger lived in the 1800s, was one of the major poskim in the 1800s from Brody. And his Shut HaElef L'Chas Shlomo has over 1,000 Shalos and Shuvas. That's why it's called HaElef L'Chas Shlomo. And the Chochma Shlomo is also a major Mefarish on the Shulchan Aruch. So the Shlomo Kluger says, someone is sick. It's not sheyesh sakana, but it hurts them a lot, got a big headache or whatever. Like cod liver oil. Can you eat the oil of a non-kosher fish? If you look at it, if you drink fat of a fish, that's not the normal way. The normal way you derive benefit from a fish. So it's a huge yesod given to us by Shlomo Kluger that using something that even is asur midaraisa, but with shelo kederach ha'asur, which normally is only forbidden midrabanan, that gzeira is lifted if you're sick. We're talking about a sickness she'ein bo sakana. It's not life-threatening illness. So, and he kind of says something that will put you into bed. And we'll see that even a bad headache is considered a chol she'ein bo sakana. So if a person's not feeling well, that's considered chol she'ein bo sakana. We'll get together a little bit better. There are more cautions, though, that any leniency is accepted concerning use non-kosher items for medicinal purposes would be permitted only if no kosher substitutes are readily available. So one has to make an attempt to find a kosher substitute. You shouldn't just use something that's treif. Says the Ramah there in the same siman in Kuf Nun Hey, ein matir shum davar isur l'choyle im yachol asas rafu beheter. If you can manufacture, if there's something that's got a hashgacha, you should get something that's kosher. Even if it allows a little delay, remember, the guy's not dying. It's not a chol yesh bo sakana. So if it's a chol she'ein bo sakana, you should delay. And if it's available to find something that's prepared in a kosher manner, you should use that one. According to the sources we have seen, it would seem that one who is ill would be allowed to swallow a pill that is bitter and contains non-kosher ingredients or doesn't have kosher certification when no kosher substitute is readily available, since one does not benefit at all from its taste. This approach is accepted by other contemporary poskim, including Rav Shlomo Zalman Auerbach in the Minchas Shlomo and Rav Moshe Heinemann of the Star K. There are people who disagree. You can see the footnote, but in general, we have to rely on that if it's a pill that doesn't taste good, so that would fall under the category of shelo kederach hanas, and you'd be able to use it even if it's not a sakana, as long as you can't find a kosher version. This indeed seems to be a common practice among observant Jews, and is confirmed as permitted by Rav Belsky, at least with regard to the specific case of hard gelatin capsules that are swallowed. So first of all, Rav Jachter Rav Chaim Jachter has a kuntras that's called Medications That Contain Non-Kosher Ingredients. So he discusses potential reasons for leniency. He notes that many of the medications may be considered nifsal me'achila, inedible, which render them permitted to consume. Some achronim, such as the Shagas Aryeh, hold that even medicine is still forbidden due to the principle of achshaveh, which we'll explain that. Achshaveh means you give it importance. The consensus of poskim, including Rav Moshe Feinstein and Igros Moshe, and there's a source there, Rav Avadia Yosef, is that medicine that does not taste good would be permitted. Nevertheless, Rav Jachter notes that some poskim, such as Shlomo Zalman Auerbach or Moshe Heinemann, consider the possibility that medicinal pills or vitamins may be considered edible due to their nutritional or therapeutic value, or the fact that many substances in the Gemara are considered edible that we would expect would be entirely inedible. So let's just read the OU Halachas Yomis. Many medications are encased in gelatin capsules. We're going to deal with gelatin in its own section in this, in this volume. Here, Rav Belsky is assuming that gelatin is a non-kosher substance. We're going to see that there are opinions that gelatin is a kosher substance. But here, Rav Belsky is under the assumption that the gelatin is non-kosher. Regarding medicines that are encased in hard gelatin capsules, such as capsules that are commonly used for antibiotics, Rav Belsky said that the minhag is to permit them for a chola, not just a chola sheyesh bo sakona, but any chola. This is based on the concept that a chola is permitted to consume non-kosher medicines, provided that one does so shelo kederech achilaso, in an uncommon manner of consumption. Since it's uncommon to eat dried out plastic-like gelatin capsules, one who is ill is permitted to swallow them. It should be noted that this leniency applies only if a kosher alternative is not available. Thus, one should not swallow Tylenol capsules made out of gelatin, since Tylenol tablets are readily available. Rabelski is also machmer concerning soft gelatin capsules, because we're going to see that that's more like a food. But so if you have Tylenol tablets, you should eat Tylenol tablets rather than Tylenol capsules, because that's fulfilling what we've learned tonight, which is that if there's a kosher alternative, you should use the kosher alternative. If you don't, then you have a permission to use something that either has a bitter taste or is not considered edible. Okay, so that's, a lot of our medicines are bitter, they don't have a good taste. What about pleasant tasting medicine? What is the halacha concerning medicines that do taste good and you swallow normally, such as liquid cough medicines or pleasant tasting chewable tablets? Is one who is ill permitted to take such medications? It would seem that the leniencies discussed previously may not apply, since these may not be considered unusual manners of consumption if they are chewed or swallowed like a normal food or liquid. If so, does that mean that they are all forbidden for anyone other than an ill patient whose life in danger? Or might there be other grounds for leniency? By the way, Rav Jachter notes that according to the logic of Rav Moshe and Rav Ovadia, it may still be permitted to take a chewable but tasteless pill, since it may be considered inedible. So Rav Tzvi Pesach Frank and Rav Hart Tzvi addresses this question and states that the amount of actual non-kosher substance within the medicine is quite small, certainly less than the measurement of a kazayas, the size of an olive, which is the minimum measure that is normally prohibited. Now, although normally even a measurement less than a kazayas is forbidden to consume because of the principle of chatzi shir asur min Torah, that means you're not allowed to eat a kazayas of nevela or a kazayas of chalev. Well, does that mean you're allowed to eat a half a kazayas? Absolutely not. And not only that, it's asur min Torah to eat even less than a kazayas. You just don't get malchus unless you eat a kazayas. But even less than the regular shear is asur min Torah. As ruled by the Gemara in Yoma, Rav Frank wonders, so he's saying the non-kosher element in a pill is certainly much smaller than the kazayas. So even though chatzi shir asur min Torah, Rav Frank wonders whether in this case it might be permitted, since the reason is that one might come to consume more and thereby consume a shear. So let's understand that's a very important score for us to understand. Why does the Gemara there asur chatzi shir asur min Torah? Because if you can eat a half a kazayas, you're going to come to eat the full kazayas. But here, there's no such issue because you're not coming to consume more. In the case of medicine, though, no concern exists that one will consume too much, since a person only wishes to ingest the amount instructed by the doctor, more than which might be harmful. Thus, there may be room for leniency in this case as well. Though he didn't issue a definitive conclusion. Let's read the hard sweet. Nish'alti, I was asked, the person needs to take medicine tablets. Morim, they're in general bitter. However, there's some chocolate or some other powder sprinkled on top of the tablet to make it taste better. Are we allowed to swallow such tablets? This chocolate is goy, it's Gentile. It could be the chocolate's been made with treif milk, treif fats. So l'chura, he says, this chocolate was mixed with the bitter tablets, and he swallowed them together. So number one, that's not normally how you eat chocolate. So number one, he says it fulfills the principle of shalok k'derech hanasan. Even though it's going to be also min rabbanon, so first of all, there's no shear. So you have two things. It's shalok k'derech hanasan and pachos mikashir. Uv'shalok k'derech hanasan she'enu asr min rabbanon yesh lodun shelo yebo isra b'chatzi shir. He wants to say that perhaps a rabbinic isser, not eaten in its normal hana way, there shouldn't be a problem of chatzi shir. He says, "Ulam b'shut harivash kosav ladei shigam b'isur rabbanan chatzi shir." Let's say there's a prohibition where the prohibition is only rabbinic. The rivash brings that, who's a rishon, who brings that there is chatzi shir. Why? Because of a principle misham to call the tikkun rabbanan kein deraisa tikkun. Whenever Chazal made a takana, they did it with the strength of deraisa. So since a deraisa dika isur like chelev or chazer and avela has a principle of chatzi shir, so when the Rabbanon made a rabbinic prohibition, they did it the same way. The nir shagam adasa rivash, but ein zela b'davar sheroy lachima. But that is something that is edible. Avla b'davar shein roy lachima, like a tablet, lo shaykh chazi leads to rufi. But not, this concept that you're going to eat more, the chatzi shir is going to make you eat a whole shir. This because chazi leads to rufi, you're going to add up enough so you end up with a kazayas. Sheikar yisod shel chazi leads to rufi, which royu lechol od v'lavoli deit tziruf. It's because you want to eat more of this. Eating the chatzi shir brings you to eat the whole isser. However, that's only something that's like a good food that you're going to eat. There's nothing preventing you that you're going to fulfill the shir. But something that's not fit to be eaten. And he's prevented from his desire to eat more. The only reason he ate it is because the doctor told him to take it. He doesn't have any need for more. In fact, the doctor told him not to take more. So how can you say chazal is terufin? The chazal lechol adu machal zel hashim sashir. When it's not. So Rav Tzvi Pesach Frank gives a lot of very important yisoidistic snifim lahakel regarding this issue. Shmir Shabbos Kilchasa, citing Rosh Shlomo Zalman, suggests a different leniency for many medicines. In his opinion, medicine that is made edible simply by adding extra sugar doesn't render it an edible food. Therefore, taking it is not considered to be consumption in a normal manner of benefit. Just a footnote, there are other arguments offered as well to permit children taking medicines in similar cases, or to dilute the medicine and rely on bittul. These conclusions were agreed upon by Rav Hershel Schachter and Mordechai Willig. And they give you some sources in the footnote. Anyways, the Shmir Shabbos Kilchasa, it says, Ufu trufos bizmanenu, our medicines, but they're called enzu derech achilosim. It's not considered regular achila. Umashim amtikim, the fact that they make it sweet tasting by adding sugar to it. Ayidei sukkar lav klumu. Shed some time in umar. Really, it's bitter. Gama pirov for nifsal afil machilas kelef. In fact, this thing even a dog won't eat. So therefore, mutter gam bepesach. That's why Rosh Hashanah is very lenient regarding medicines on Pesach, because he says these things are not even roy lachilas kelef. So you can eat it. Shomati magoin Rosh Hashanah. Another potential option for leniency for pills is based on the Gemara in Pesachim that states that if one wraps matzah and moror inside an inedible material, let's say you take a plastic saran wrap and you wrap moror or matzah in that and you eat it, it's not considered to be a halachic eating. And one has not fulfilled the mitzvah to eat matzah on the night of Pesach, because it did not come in contact. By the way, the same svor, let's just see it in Gemara. Honor of a bola matzah, yotza. If you swallow matzah, you yotze achilas matzah. Bola moror, lo yotza, because you got to taste the bitterness of moror, and your taste buds are in your mouth. So if you just swallow it, you're not yotze moror. Bola matzah umoror. Let's say you ate matzah more mixed together. Yidei matzah yotza, yidei mor lo yotza, because the matzah, again, also sort of covered up the moror, so you wouldn't taste its bitter taste. Then it says korchon besiv, if you wrapped either matzah or moror in a like a plastic ubolon, so then after they matzah no you're not yotza matzah either, because none of the anatomy, not your mouth, not your stomach, was your groinoid was not nene from the matzah. So, and the shulch. By the way, I've read shuvas where Tzvik and I were learning with Chavrusa recently the concept, and he'll be giving a shiur about it. So, like, if adultery had taken place with an Eishes Ish, with a married woman, so sometimes one of the questions that is asked is, was a condom used? Because if a condom was used, then that could be a reason to say that there wasn't actual halachic bia, because of this concept of sieve, because the flesh did not come in contact with flesh. I'm not giving there's certainly no leniency being given here. It's just a svara based on this concept of korchen besiv. It's also used in the area of arayas for the same, using the same svara. So the Shulchan Aruch says in korchen besiv ubalo, you wrapped it in plastic and swallowed it. Afidei matzah yotzel fishein derech achila bekach. So if eating matzah in this fashion is not considered halachic act of eating, perhaps one can infer that consuming a pill containing non-kosher ingredients, when wrapped inside another material, such as a tissue, is also not considered a halachic act of eating, would be permitted. In fact, Rav Chaim Ozer Grodzinski, the Gadol Ador, before World War II, Rav Chaim Ozer lived in Vilna. Huh?
I thought the wrapping was the problem. The wrapping was the unkosher. On a pill, it was the casing that's the problem, not the actual ingredients of the pill.
No. Sidney, what they're saying here is, let's say you have a pill that we described that has some kind of non-kosher ingredient. They're saying
In the pill's ingredients, you mean?
in the pill. So they're saying wrap the pill in a piece of tissue and swallow the tissue.
I got you. Okay.
Like there you're talking about gelatin, where we said that since if the gelatin is not kosher itself, it's shelo kederech achiloso. It's not, normally people are not going to eat a dried out plastic like gelatin capsule. So there, that was over there. Rav Belsky said you can, is a sword to say you can eat a capsule which has some kind of sort. So that's not the sieve there either. Here, the sieve would be that you wrap it in a piece of plastic or a piece of tissue and swallow it. and therefore it never came in contact with your. It's trying to use the same concept over there. It's getting the mitzvah of matzah. Here, it's preventing the prohibition of something, but they're trying to use it in an analogous fashion. And Rav Chaim Ozer passed away in 1940.
So Ernie, I don't understand.
Yes.
What's the big deal? The capsule already is plastic. The plastic's not, there's nothing not kosher about plastic. It's just what's inside the capsule.
By the way, so gelatin is not plastic. Gelatin. So if the capsule is made out of plastic, then you've already fulfilled. You don't have to put it in a tissue. Then it's already wrapped in plastic.
Yeah, but there are a lot of, for example, the Tylenol, or there are a lot of medications where the gelatin is inside the capsule. Right?
Fine. So no, but the gelatin is usually used to make the capsule.
Are you sure? I thought it was
Yeah.
the gelatin.
Yeah.
The
Gelatin is made outside. Is sometimes outside. Yes.
To make it easier to swallow. That's why they put
Yeah,
it.
it's to make it easy to swallow. That's right. That's why they put gelatin.
So, but we already said that even if you hold that because there's going to be a debate whether gelatin itself is kosher or not kosher. But even those who say it's not kosher, we said it's an uncommon manner of consumption because it's uncommon to eat dried out plastic like gelatin capsules. So one who is ill is permitted to swallow them. Only if a kosher alternative is not available. That's the getters we've learned tonight. If there's a kosher alternative, then like if there's a Tylenol tablet instead of a Tylenol capsule, you should use the tablet because the tablet doesn't have gelatin. Now, if a medicine is wrapped in plastic, so plastic is like the sieve, and that would be like wrapping it in a tissue. I don't know medicines that are wrapped in plastic though, in general. Anyways, Rav Chaim Ozer discussed this issue and notes that it may depend upon whether this principle applies as well to the consumption of forbidden foods. Maybe it's only relevant to the fulfillment of a positive mitzvah of eating, as the case of matzah, which is discussed by the Achronim. Rav Chaim Ozer concludes that all should agree that it is permitted in the case of medicine for one who is ill, since the food wrapped inside is also inedible. Remember, the tablet itself is inedible. So you have the inedible tablet, and so you might have some non-kosher ingredient in it. So if you wrap it in a tissue, l'chol hadayis, you're not going to have any problem. Says the Achiezer, which was the name of Rav Chaim Ozer's Shalos and Shuvas. Hinei bedin korchel b'siv l'gabi isurim. So he's bringing up the concept of wrapping prohibited items in a sieve, like in a plastic. In fact, the Mishnah Melech commentary on the Rambam was in doubt whether wrapping a Dvar Isser in a plastic would prevent you from being over the Isser. So we're not sure. However, Helu Achronim Shein Isser. The Achronim said there is no Isser. Remember, Rav Babad, the Minchas Chinuch, the Sefer HaChinuch, which lists all the 613 mitzvahs, that's a Rishon. It was written in 1200, 1300. But then Rav Babad in the 1800s wrote the classic Minchas Chinuch, which is, so he wrote in the Minchas Chinuch, Bekama Makomos, Uveshut Ksav Sofer, right, the son of the Chasam Sofer, in Chelek Or Chaim, so they clearly stated, those achronim, that if you wrap a piece of chazer in a plastic and swallow it, there's no isser d'oraisa. There might be an isser d'rabbanan. Yulian shab b'nira. But foods that are not edible and karchu b'siv, gama shagas arye, moide de ein kan isser midrabbanan. The Isra Rabban goes away. The Lo Shach was the Ach Shavei Lachila. Remember, the Shagasai was one who said, well, maybe you're being, even though it's unedible, by eating it, you're being machshavit. Well, if you surround it in a plastic or a tissue, then Ach Shavei goes away. So there's no rabbinic Isra either. So says the Achiezer, Al Ken Yerim B'didon Didam. So that's a very clear heter from a Chaim Oizer for a choyle shein bo sakana to, if you have any chashash, to wrap it in the tissue. The Sefer HaKashrus accepts this line of reasoning, at least partially, and rules that one may consume medicine containing non-kosher ingredients or medicine without certification that has a pleasant taste. Remember, we already said things that don't have a good taste, that's no problem. Everybody, Rav Moshe, Rav Ovadia, they allowed you to eat that. Now we're talking about medicines that have a pleasant taste. They're sweet or they taste good. So here, if one wraps it in a capsule or paper, but only if there are no better options that are definitely kosher. Says the Sefer HaKashrus, choyle shein bo sakana asur lishtamish betrufa haroyu leachila sheyesh ba taruvus isur. A chola doesn't have, it's not besakana, cannot use a medicine that is an edible thing where there's something, a taruvis, a mixture of something prohibited in it. Okay. Trufas hamachilos marchivim asurim bachila v'taman orev lecheich. Ein lishtamish behem. You should not use them. Things that have a good taste, that have iser in it. Ela lishtamish b'tachlifim ksherim. You have to find similar medicines that were made with kosher. B'mida. They ain't tachlif kosher, but let's say you can't find an alternative that's kosher. So muter levalon kashen atufos b'niyar o b'chmusa kapsula kshera. You can buy kosher capsules and stick the medicine in the kosher capsules and swallow it that way, or wrap it in a tissue and swallow it that way. The same suggestion is made by Rav Belsky in the case of soft gelatin capsules, which in his opinion are considered equivalent to food. Remember, Rav Belsky said that a hard gelatin capsule you can eat, because nobody would eat that. That's like eating plastic or wood. So it's not achshaveh and it's not achila. But a soft gelatin capsule is problematic because he holds that gelatin is not kosher. And he says that gelatin in a soft capsule is more like a regular food. So Rav Belsky felt that soft gelatin capsules, which are often used for vitamins, fish oils, and over-the-counter medication, should not be used. Because the gelatin is soft and pliable, Rav Belsky was concerned that swallowing gelatin in this form might not be considered an uncommon manner. Additionally, these soft capsules are often made from pigskin gelatin and are kept soft and pliable with large amounts of glycerin, which is also from a pig. If one has no other alternative, Rav Belsky recommended wrapping the capsule in tissue paper, which makes it an unusual manner of consumption. A related issue is whether one must wait after consuming a meat vitamin before eating dairy. Let's say something made out of liver. This question concerning which many poskim are lenient, like the Igros Moshe and Minchas Yitzchak, was addressed previously in our Basar B'Cholov Shir. However, some suggest that medicine or vitamins that contain dairy ingredients, such as lactose, should not be taken after eating meat until at least an hour has passed. We will conclude this section by noting that there are many different opinions and individual considerations to be weighed concerning the issue of taking non-kosher medications for those who are ill. In addition, opinions also differ concerning whether one who is slightly ill, such as one who has a headache, is that also included in the leniencies given above? So the Shulchan Aruch cited above does not directly address this category known in halacha as mechush ba'alma, a feeling of uncomfortability. The Shach appears to allow consumption of a non-kosher food in this situation. But the Chachmas Adam and others are uncertain whether this is the accepted halacha. Rav Chaim Jakter cites Rav David Heber as saying that most observant Jews follow the lenient approach to this manner and take Advil even for a minor headache, despite the presence of potential non-kosher ingredients inside. Okay. It is therefore recommended that one consult with one's rabbinic authority or kashrut agency concerning particular cases.
Intravenous is never a shaila whether you can take it.
No, it's not derech achila.
Nachachila, yeah.
No. Now, if it was made of an Asherah tree, right? We said that you couldn't have any kind of hanoah from that. But I don't think we have, so we don't have that. And by the way, if you're getting an intravenous, most likely it's a chola sheyesh bo sakana.
Yeah.
Which of course we said everything is permitted. So what about the kashrus of toothpaste? By the way, I sent everybody an email that Harold sent me, which has some very interesting details there. And he also sent some links. He said he's traveling. That's why he wanted to.
I thought he was advertising his products.
Say again?
I said, I thought he was advertising his products with the hashgacha. I'm just kidding.
Oh. Okay. So does toothpaste require kashrut certification in order to use? In Israel, many toothpastes do indeed carry certification, but in the Golah, it is not easy to verify that a toothpaste is in fact kosher. In this section, we will summarize some of the considerations and opinions of contemporary poskim concerning toothpaste. The primary ingredient of concern within toothpaste is glycerin, which can often come from non-kosher animals. However, the glycerin is then mixed in with other substances that are often inedible.
Batal b'shishim, yeah.
Thus, no, it's not batal b'shishim. It's not going to be shishim. It's going to be batal b'ro. Thus, the poskim must determine whether one may be more lenient than in the standard case of a mixture containing non-kosher, where we usually apply bittul b'shishim, right, as we learned before in volume 4. But remember, I'm teaching a shiur right now. So that's the issue. They debate, do we need batal b'shishim or is it not batal b'ro? So Rav Yaakov Kamenetsky suggested that all toothpaste was permitted because the glycerin was combined with inedible substances, in which case one can follow the majority, which consists of kosher ingredients. However, the OU notes that this particular reasoning may no longer apply to toothpaste in the manner that it is currently produced. Says the OU staff, the most kosher sensitive ingredient found in toothpaste is glycerin, which is often animal-based and usually makes up 1/3 of the product. Unquestionably, glycerin without a hechsher should be assumed non-kosher. Nevertheless, Rav Yaakov in Emes Yaakov held that toothpaste containing glycerin were permissible, since the primary ingredient in toothpaste was calcium carbonate, which is inedible. That was the stringent. Calcium carbonate was the solid that you use to scrape out the plaque. Rav Yaakov reasoned that the requirement of requiring 60 times the amount of heter in proportion to Isser did not apply to a non-food item like calcium carbonate. Since calcium carbonate constituted a majority of the paste, the glycerin would be nullified based on the principle of bittul b'ro. Nevertheless, the manufacture of toothpaste has changed. Since Rav Yaakov's psak, calcium carbonate generally is no longer used. The most common abrasive, which is an ingredient present in toothpaste that rid teeth of plaque, today is hydrated silica. Hydrated silica is also inedible, but usually only composes 1/5 of toothpaste. Typically, the majority of raw materials in toothpaste are edible. So seemingly, Rav Yaakov's heter would not apply anymore. Another potential lenient consideration relates to the concept of noisen tam livgam. We have seen in previous shiurim that the Gemara and Shulchan Aruch rule that a non-kosher item whose flavor ruins or detracts from the taste of another food will not render the other food forbidden if it's mixed in. Amar Rav Yilchasa noisen tam livgam. If the taruvis, if the added item, which is usser, is a bad taste, the taruvis is mutter. Says the Shulchan Aruch, which we learned before in Kuf Gimel, kol davar shetamo pogum, anything that has a bad taste, eina oser taruvaso. If it's mixed into a taruvis, into a mixture, it doesn't aser. Vafilu ein tamo pogum machlas atzmo. Even if by itself, on its own, it does not have a bad taste. It's only when you mix it that it has a bad taste. But somehow by mixing it, it gives a bad taste. The item, the mixture is mutter. When it says that it has to have a bad taste, it doesn't have to be where the whole thing is completely disgusting and you would never touch it. Even if it ruins the taste a little bit. Eino osir taruvaso. The added prohibited item that gives somewhat of a bad flavor does not prohibit it. That leniency is only if a minor amount of prohibited substance went in with majority heter. But if the added prohibited item, even if it's pagam, is more than the heter mu'et, and even if it's 50-50, then it has to be completely inedible. So it's a complicated Shulchan Aruch, but very yesodistic, because it explains to us that even Noisim Tam Livgam has its gedorim, that it's got to be a minority in the mixture. If it's a majority in the mixture, then we would not say unless it's completely unedible. So based on this Shulchan Aruch, Rav Tzvi Pesach Frank used that as part of his basis for ruling leniently that you can use toothpaste without a hechsher. Regarding answering his question about toothpaste that has prohibited substances in it, can you clean your teeth with it because it's noisen tam livgam? Sometimes something that is pagam ruins it completely. Until it completely cannot be eaten. No human would eat it. However, there are some additives that is prohibited that would give a bad taste, but not ruin it completely. The Easter pogum lagamre acher ein roy lachilas adam. Now, if the Easter is pagam a little bit, and it ruins the food so a person can't eat it, minator and Easter bachila. So minator it's not osir. Aval osir M'Rabanan. That's if something is a pogum, it's not a mixture. It by itself is pogum. So if the prohibited item is on its own, even though it's a bad taste, there's an issur d'Rabbanan. Here comes the punchline. But if the dvar pogum is mixed with a dvar heter, afilu isser meruba, even if the prohibited item is more than that dvar heter, l'toch heter mu'et mutter lachlo. They taruvas loy gazru. They didn't make this gzeira with a mixture, as it says in Shulchan Aruch, which we just quoted. Lachen b'nidon shel fanenu. Im ze pogum lagamri achin roy lachilas odom klal. If the item becomes inedible, and even if the prohibited item is by itself, once it's mixed with something at dvar heter, everybody would agree it's mutter. The taruvas loy gazru. They didn't make the isser unless with a taruvas. That's all fine and dandy if the mixture is pogum lagamri, but our problem is the shu pogum ktsas. Lo amrinan sheina also teruva. So kishnar isser muat imet meruva. Then we said it becomes permitted to use only when the Isra is in a minority. So the big sniff lahakel here is because toothpaste you don't swallow. You just taste. It's not meant to swallow. And therefore, just tasting something dvar isri without swallowing it is prohibited. The Shach says the lav dafka bisra no, elegam bisra achila, not just something that is osir bano, but even something that's osir b'achila, you can't taste, even though you don't swallow. Mikol makom b'isr drabanan. Since we've categorized this mixture as only isr drabanan, ish harbin mekilim b'ti'ima b'lo blia. By just tasting it and not swallowing it, the Hart Tzvi seems to say that the toothpaste would be permitted. According to Rav Frank, toothpaste is permitted because considered dvar pagum, that is not usually consumed, and even if the non-kosher ingredient constitutes the majority of the mixture, in which case it must be entirely inedible to be lenient, according to Shulchan Aruch, which is often not. Right? We can combine that with the consideration that one does not usually swallow it, which may be permissible in the case of an Isser Rabban. Rav Shlomo Braun also discusses the issue in the Shiurim HaMtzuyonim B'Halacha and accepts the leniency of Rav Frank. Yesh ladun b'inyan mishcha shinayim sheyesh krash taru l'sisser, toothpaste where there's something prohibited in the mixture. El shenifka b'besach haroshes, it's got a bad taste in the factory. L'chora yesh loymar al pi masha kosu b'yoredeya the davar pogum etarus mutar kshu pogum lagamre, that if it ruins the flavor completely, it's permitted. And when it's pogum, if it's only minor pogum, the heter has to be more than the isser. That's why you need the exact ingredients. Which we just learned. Even if you have a situation where the heter is not more than the isser, it's only an isser drabanan. The Ramah said very beferish that Tzurba M'Rabanan you cannot just taste and not swallow. Tasting without swallowing is permitted. The OU notes that even if Rav Frank's leniency is accepted, it's unclear whether it still applies today due to the presence of many flavors within toothpaste that makes it more edible. Nowadays, toothpaste can be found in multiple varieties and flavors. The flavor industry in general is highly complicated. Flavors can be derived from just about anything, including different non-kosher sources. The presence of flavors in toothpaste certainly makes the paste more palatable, despite that fact that excessive intakes of toothpaste will make one nauseous. Its taste in small quantities can be quite refreshing. As a result, many Rabbanim advise that one should only purchase toothpaste with a proper hechsher. Other Rabbanim disagree, contend that the taste of toothpaste, even with the presence of flavors, is still less than tasty, and the leniency of Rav Tzvi Pesach Frank still applies. Nevertheless, if glycerin is present in tasty toothpaste, that would make it problematic. And this may very well be the case with some forms of children's toothpaste. The Sefer Chiko Mamtakim quotes from Shlomo Zalman Auerbach's holding that it's preferable to use toothpaste that is kosher if it is possible, but if not, one should try not to swallow it. Mishal, im tzarech shemishchal yishnayim or sabon, you im hechsher. When you buy toothpaste or soap, do you need hechsher? Omar im kaimim im hechsher, madu lo yishtamish be. Why not? V'nishal kasher ein im hechsher. Tzarech lizar shelo livlo, don't swallow. Mishum she'omer b'minta yesh k'tzar hano. Because with the mint flavor, there's hano. The Mishnah Halachos Rav Menashe Klein is more stringent with respect to mouthwash that has a pleasant taste and contains non-kosher ingredients, that one should not use them at all. He argues that since when one rinses his mouth with it, one benefits from the taste, one should be stringent even though it's not swallowed. Can you sort of gargle if it's got glycerin in it? He quotes our tzvi that says it was permitted. right? It's only a blia that would be a problem, not te'ima. Rotzel das. So the Mishnah Lachos was asked, "Im ken gam b'me'at hachas peh mouthwash kirum yeshlem tav tov." They have a good flavor, not a pagam flavor. Hinei yeshlo tam tov hagam shein derech lachlam. Even though you're not drinking it and it's not the normal way of eating it, because makom kiven shebe'et shtuam sheton. The time that you taste it, nanem in iser, you're benefiting from the iser aser lahanos. Raya bruam imash aser litom basar. For example, you have meat, and you have in doubt was it salted or not. Because of adrisha, the aser litom pilshon, you can't taste it. On the other hand, if the Torah zav the taz, dibra maskul yitamenu cholak ala prisha, usfirle de mutter litom abasar. He said you can taste the meat. Miyata b'didan given the yeshli stapik. This is rabbanon. This is only Nisr Rabban Kolponim. Ulaya filu deraisa of yesh potam vare dein lasos polachatchila. You shouldn't use it lechatchila. Gam di yesh lietchok. Ulay gam a glycerin eno iser gomer. Maybe glycerin's not a full iser. But also bovan she iser kvar nifsa machilas keleb. The glycerin was prepared in a way that even a dog won't eat it. Kodim shenasa glycerin. So ulay eno glycerin urvbo. Maybe it's not there. You call mokum kvar amar chacham archek midarchei heter. Lo tova l'dei iser. Kosher kein hacha. So he's stringent about mouthwash. The OU states that mouthwash should have the same halachic status as toothpaste. And those that would be lenient regarding toothpaste would be lenient concerning mouthwash as well. Well, those that are machmer concerning all toothpaste, or regarding flavored toothpaste, would be machmer as well. The presence of glycerin in mouthwash is much less common than it used to be. It's becoming increasingly uncommon to find mouthwash without any flavors in it. And we learned tonight that flavors is a problem. Okay, I think we